Hey everyone, and welcome back to RyoVations. I hope you're all having a beautiful summer and soaking up the sunlight, or at least finding moments to enjoy the warmth. And I'm back with a brand new video, and it feels so good to be creating again. As you guys know, my last few projects were wrapped up in more darker and emotional stories. But this time, I thought, let's explore some other worlds. Still mysterious, as you know, but with a magical twist. And for the first time ever, for this project, I'll be using a 3D printer, which really opened up new creative doors for me. I'm so excited to show you. So let's jump in and see where this story takes us, shall we? For those of you who've been following me for a while now, you probably already know that Golia from Monster High is one of my absolute favorite dolls, mostly because of her face shape. I just love working with it. Well, the steps of doll customizing are usually always the same, at least when it comes to preparing the doll. First, I remove the hair, if that's something your project requires, of course. And then I wipe off the original face using 100% of pure Aceton. Of course, it always depends on what your specific project needs, so feel free to adjust things to your own style. After that, I place the head in hot water for a few minutes to soften the vinyl. That way it's much easier to remove the head from the body. After that, I go in with some tools or tweezers, whatever you have at home, to pull out the leftover hair from inside the head. And as you guys already know, I love to shrink my doll's head to make it proportionate to the body, using a mixture of water and acetone, and I leave the head in there for 2 days. I know it's a weird process, but totally worth it for the final look. So let's start with the horns. First, you can see me marking 2 points on her head where the horns will go later on. I try to keep them as symmetrical as possible so they end up in the same position on both sides. Then I use my hand drill to carefully create 2 small holes. After that, I take a short piece of wire, add a tiny bit of superglue and insert it into the hole. This will act as a support structure, so I can later sculpt the horns using Apoxie Sculpt around the wire. Apoxie Sculpt is a 2-part modeling clay that's really easy to shape and work with. One great thing about it is that you can use a little bit of water to smooth it out while sculpting, which makes details so much easier to create. And epoxy hardens over time without shrinking, so it's perfect for adding durable details like horns or armor. Here I'm giving the horns a little bit of texture. This looks so cool. And now I'm adding a little extra to the bust with some Apoxie Sculpt again, because hey, she's a succubus, and they definitely need to bring their A game when it comes to looking fabulous. Gotta keep that charm turned all the way up. And plus, epoxy makes it super easy to sculpt those perfect curves. As you guys probably already seen from the thumbnail, this doll is going to have a lot of details. That's why I want to keep her outfit simple. Kind of a kind of a sexy lingerie, so it doesn't compete with all of the other elements. So the minimal clothing acts like a subtle base to really let those details shine. Now let's set our doll aside to dry and move on to our 3D printer, because our Succubus definitely needs a throne. And 8 hours later, my first print ever was ready. Unfortunately, it missed some parts, but it was all okay for me. And as you can see, I also created these 2 candle stands. I'm not sure what they're called. But just to be clear, it's not sponsored or anything. I bought it with my own money. And I'm not using it to make things easier, but to open up more creative possibilities for my projects. This allows me to bring ideas to life that would have been really hard or even impossible to build by hand. So I'm really excited to use this. And of course I needed a place to display the throne, so I created a base using aluminium foil, which I then covered with some Airdry Clay. This later on will become our lava pool, the perfect setting for a powerful Succubus queen. And here I'm already checking her sitting position, so to make sure that everything is as I planned and as it is in the sketch. So it already looks super cool, but it will get even cooler, believe me. And by the way, we didn't sand anything down yet, that's why she might look a little harsh. But for now I'm just sculpting a heart necklace for her, and later on I will also give her some boots with some heels, of course, to make it even more sexy. And when I first started working on her, I actually imagined completely different colors. But as I began creating her piece by piece, things started to change. And in the end, I made some last-minute decisions that I'm really happy with. I hope you really like the results as well. I will also show you my original sketch later in the video. And just a little reminder, it's totally okay if your final creation doesn't look exactly like your initial sketch. That happens to every artist, believe me. The most important thing is that you feel connected to the character you're building and that you trust yourself to make changes when something doesn't feel right anymore. That's part of the magic of creating, I think. So let your sketch be your map, not your prison. Also, I shaped her mouth into a subtle, sinister smile, the kind that makes you wonder if she's about to kiss you or kill you. Of course, she needed some fangs as well. As said, later on we will sand everything down, so the smile will look way smoother than it does now. So let's leave the doll to cure for now and let's prime our throne. Now I'm going to prime everything using my airbrush. I'm using the primer from Vallejo. It's so much faster than brushing it on by hand. Plus the end result is so much smoother and you don't get any brush strokes. It's also Great for getting even, clean coats and reaching tricky areas, but you absolutely have to clean your airbrush thoroughly after each use, which is a big con for me, to be honest. Here I'm switching to a darker grey, almost black, in my airbrush to paint the stone base. I'm using it to add depths and shadows to the surface. This really helps bring out the texture and makes everything look more realistic. Black airbrush paint all over my freshly done nails. Of course, classic artist problem. And now I'm making her succubus tail. I'm using a piece of wire again as the base, wrapping it with Apoxie Sculpt to build the shape. And at the very end, I'm forming a little heart, just a subtle reminder that she might steal yours. Next up, the wings. I've already used this method a few times on previous dolls already, and honestly, it's the easiest technique I've come up with myself. All you need is some clear plastic sheet, UV resin and wires. That's it. It's simple, lightweight, and it looks really cool once the light hits it. And of course you can always add some glitters and everything into it. It's all upon you. Cure them under the UV lamp for around 90 seconds. And that's it. As you can see, the wings turned out crystal clear, and in some areas I applied the UV resin in a way that makes them look slightly cracked, which gives them such a cool effect. And at this point you can totally paint the wings if you like, or just leave them as they are. They almost look like they are made of ice. Such a cool effect. Now you can see me sanding everything down using sandpaper and also my hand drill. This step takes a long time in real life, so to save you some boredom, I'll speed things up a little. It's not the most exciting part, but it's super important for the final result. Sanding helps smooth out all the bumps and all of the imperfections, and trust me, it really pays off in the end. I gave the doll a few coats of primer, and let's get back to our stand and let her dry for now. Well, our stone base is finally dry, so now we can start painting the lava. First I'm using a bright red to build the base. This will show the hottest, most intense areas of the lava. Next, I will add some random shapes with orange, kind of like veins flowing through the red. And finally, I use a vibrant yellow on top of the orange to create that glowing effect. It's all about layering from dark to light, and that's how you get that molten fairy look. You don't need to follow any strict rules here, just trust your instincts and let it flow. Just like actual lava. I am now coating our lava pool with a layer of gloss varnish to give it that hot liquid shine. If you ever look closely at lava, you'll see that on the surface there's often a crust of cooled black rock, and that's exactly the effect I want to create. To do this, I pour some black paint all over the lava and apply the crackle medium right on top. The thicker the layer, the bigger and deeper the cracks will appear. It's super important to let everything fully dry between each layer, especially the gloss varnish and the crackle layer, otherwise the effect won't work properly. Well, this throne is literally forged by fire. So it's sitting right inside of a lava pool. So it was super important for me that the heat and the glow from the lava reflect into the throne itself. The colors help tell the story, as if the intense heat has scorched the stone over time, leaving behind a burning aura. It creates a strong visual connection between the throne and the world around it. For her outfit, I chose black. Not only because it fits the dark and seductive nature of a succubus, but also to create a strong contrast against her fiery surroundings. Black gives her a sense of power, elegance, and mystery. As for her hair, I decided to go with half black and half white, a visual representation of duality, light and darkness, beauty and danger, desire and destruction. It's a subtle way of showing that she's not just a creature of chaos, but one that walks the line between two worlds. And here is my original sketch. As you can see, she usually should have hot pink and black on her clothes or on her accessories. So I painted her clothing exactly the way I had planned it, using black and hot pink. But once I placed her on the throne and looked at everything together, the colors just did not work. The pink clashed too much with the red tones of the lava and the throne, so I had to step in and make a change. I decided to turn the pink into something more fiery, to match the overall mood and intensity of the scene. Sometimes sticking to the plan doesn't serve the final piece, and that's totally okay. Art is about adapting, and this change made her look even more powerful. And by the way, making long nails with hot glue is super cool and easy. Try it out. After giving my girl a manicure, it's finally time for body blushing. For this, I'm using my soft pastels in colors red and orange. And finally, the hair. The hair mirrors her personality. Part fierce and mysterious, and part calm and wise. She walks the line between fire and ice, never fully one or the other. I wanted to go for a wet look, and that's why I use synthetic hair to make it smooth, sleek and shiny, just like she's been sitting in a very, very hot area for a long time. I'm using a mixture of water and hair wax to achieve that wet look. Glitter always adds to that extra touch. And here you can see all the main pieces of the project laid out. The doll, the throne, the lava, the wings, the tail. They all look amazing on their own. But the magic really happens once they come all together. The only thing left now is the face up, and the final touch will bring her to life. And by the way, my succubus once was a mortal woman, cursed by a forgotten god to walk the line between life and death. Exiled to the underworld, she forged her own throne from molten rock and fire, a kingdom born from pain and defiance. Her open hand is not just an invitation, but a test. Those who dare approach must face the deepest fears, their own darkness reflected in her gaze. Some come seeking power, others redemption, but none leave unchanged. In her realm of lava and shadows, she reigns not as a mere temptress, but as a judge of souls, and every smile hides a secret, every promise a prize. I know I'm not the best at doing faces, but I'm always amazed how just a few details can bring so much life and personality into a doll. And by the way, I always forget to mention this. I always use Mr. Superclear to secure the layers. I think for one complete face up, I use around 3 coats of Mr. Superclear. Let's brighten up the fangs and let's also give her some highlights. And of course, as all of my dolls, she has to have some glitter on her face as well. I'm using micro powder for the highlights. And here comes our final step. I'm applying a layer of gloss varnish to her outfit, boots, necklace, horns and tail, just to give everything a beautiful leather-like finish. This shiny effect really adds that final touch of power and elegance to her look. And finally, let's assemble her. I can't wait. And there she is, our Succubus in all her glory. This piece is called Heart of Sins, not just because of her seductive nature, but because every sin starts with a desire, a spark in the heart. She invites, she tempts, but maybe, just maybe, she also searches for something herself? Who knows? Thank you so much for watching and supporting my channel. I read every single comment and it truly means a lot to me. There are still so many characters living in my head, waiting to come to life. So if you enjoyed the video, feel free to subscribe and join me on this creative journey. I hope her story spoke to you in some way. See you in the next one, and until then, stay inspired, stay curious, stay a little wicked.